And then what did you make of Sophie Cunningham's flagrant foul on JC towards the end?
It was a flagrant foul.
Do you think it's like defending Caitlin or defending the team, or how do you view just how it all?
I view it as a flagrant foul.
Here's a number that should make you stop and think: 17%. That's the percentage of all flagrant fouls in the WNBA this season that have been committed against one player, one rookie. Caitlin Clark has been on the receiving end of 6 flagrant fouls out of 35 total league-wide. Now, if you're not a basketball fan, let me put this in perspective. Imagine if one employee at your company received nearly 20% of all workplace complaints. You'd probably think something was off, right? Either that person is doing something very wrong or something very wrong is being done to them. But here's where it gets interesting. When players started pointing this out, instead of investigating why one rookie was absorbing so much punishment.
Are you trying to get me fined again?
I am not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a level of physicality that they're able to play with against her. You know, I knew it as an opponent, and I see it as her coach.
The league started fining people for asking the question. That's exactly what happened when Sydney Colson, a veteran guard rehabbing an injury at home, fired off a tweet that broke the internet. She called out the treatment her teammate Kelsey Mitchell was getting on the court, saying she'd considered roping my sister in to have her office pursue charges for how Mitchell gets assaulted during games. Caitlin Clark's response: 6 words that exposed everything. Careful, you're gonna get fined. Think about that for a second. In a league that's experiencing its biggest growth period ever, players are warning each other about getting fined for pointing out obvious problems. That's not the sign of a healthy organization. This isn't just about missed calls or referee mistakes. This is about a pattern that's so clear even casual fans can see it. And when the people who play the game professionally are willing to risk thousands of dollars from their own paychecks just to speak up.
Much like Tyrese Halliburton, she gets you the ball in places that you didn't even know you were open. I see so many similarities in Caitlin and Tyrese, primarily because they control the tempo of the game, and we want to play almost identical to the way the Pacers are playing, or maybe they want to play like we're playing.
Maybe it's time we pay attention. Tonight, we're breaking down how the WNBA's officiating controversy is threatening to overshadow the league's golden moment. We'll look at the numbers, examine the pattern, and figure out why a league that should be celebrating its success is instead dealing with players who feel they have no choice but to speak out. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell icon. This is the kind of story that mainstream sports media often glosses over, but the details matter. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some of the biggest names in women's basketball are choosing to pay fines rather than stay quiet. Let's start with that night in Los Angeles that became the breaking point for everyone involved.
But I think that's even been something like me and Steph have like always talk about when we go and watch film, and even like that New York game where like I played really, really well. I started the fourth quarter off with like 3 turnovers in a row or 2 turnovers in a row, and Steph yanked me and she was like this is like a learning moment. Do we need that in this moment? Like, no. Right. And then she subbed me back in.
Let's start with the numbers because they tell a story that's hard to ignore. Caitlin Clark, one rookie in a league full of veteran players, has been on the receiving end of 6 flagrant fouls this season. That's 17% of all flagrant fouls committed in the entire WNBA. One player, one rookie, has been the target of nearly 1/5 of the most serious fouls in the league. That's not typical rookie treatment. That's a statistical pattern that raises questions, yet Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and her officiating team are treating it like normal business. But Clark isn't the only one dealing with this issue. Kelsey Mitchell has become the go-to example of what Sydney Colson called getting assaulted on the court with little protection from officials.
I think she's going to find her way out of it. Now, we've got to get her easier ones. You know, the ones where she's having to, you know, dribble 5 or 6 times and create a shot. You know, some of that is play calling, some of that is recognition and flow, some of that is angles.
During that Sparks game, Mitchell drove to the basket repeatedly, taking contact that would send many players to the bench and somehow only earned 2 free throw attempts the entire game. Meanwhile, we've all seen other stars in this league get whistles for much less contact. The difference in treatment isn't subtle, it's obvious to anyone watching. That's when Sydney Colson, rehabbing a torn ACL at home, decided she'd seen enough. What makes Colson's voice important here is her reputation. She's widely respected in the WNBA, known for her humor and keeping things positive. When Sydney Colson calls out officiating on social media, it's not for attention. It's because the situation has gotten bad enough that someone who usually stays above drama can't stay quiet.
The Women's National Basketball Association is reportedly set to see losses rise to around $50 million this year, despite record-breaking start to 2024.
That's insane.
So in the 26 years that this league has been around, they have never been able to pull a profit.
Her tweet was direct. At a certain point in the league's existence, I'm a need for Kelsey Mitchell to get the same whistle as other stars. The way she gets assaulted is insane, actually, and I've considered roping my sister in to have her office pursue charges. That last part about her sister isn't random hyperbole, it's sharp commentary. Colson is saying what everyone's thinking. If this level of contact happened anywhere else, we'd call it assault. But because it's happening to Indiana Fever players during WNBA games, it's somehow just physical basketball. The tweet took off across social media, getting thousands of shares, with fans everywhere saying the same thing. White y'all, finally someone said it. But the response that really hit home came from Caitlin Clark herself. Careful, you're gonna get fined.
Like our first week, what people had to say, well, the WNBA fined me. They fined me $1,500.
But when it is a simple call right in front of your face multiple times, what are you doing?
What call are you bugged out?
All of them.
6 words that expose the WNBA's approach to criticism. This league doesn't welcome questions about its referees, no matter how reasonable those questions might be. You can get hammered on the court, ignored by officials, and watch your teammates get penalized for defending you, but speak up publicly and the league comes after your paycheck. Clark wasn't making this up. Just look at Sophie Cunningham, who's become the league's example of what happens when you question the refs.
I'm like, what? I'm like, this is just the beginning. I was like, you're kidding. Oh,
way.
I email our GM and she pulls me aside and she goes, come here, Sophie, I have to talk to you. And this was in front of everybody. And I was like, what did I do now? And she just smiled and she goes, hey, they're going to fine you again.
Cunningham has been fined 3 separate times this season for criticizing officials, her violations, lip syncing to a TikTok song that called referees stupid, discussing inconsistency on her podcast, and pointing out that some players get protected by whistles while others get hit with no consequences. That honesty has cost her at least $2,000 this season. Significant money when you're making around $100,000 a year. But here's what's interesting. Instead of silencing the conversation, every fine has made it louder. Fans are offering to crowdfund potential fines so their favorite players can keep speaking up. Even former Fever executive Lynn Dunn jumped into the conversation, publicly offering to help pay fines for players who speak out. When executives are siding with players against the league office, there's clearly a problem with the system. Let's look at the bigger picture, because this isn't just about missed calls or hurt feelings. This is about how Indiana Fever games are officiated compared to everyone else. Coach Stephanie White has been documenting this all season, using words like egregious to describe the different standards her team faces. Hard screens that nearly knock Indiana players over. Play continues, but if the Fever sets a firm screen, the whistle comes immediately. Clark raises her eyebrows after a missed call, technical foul for arguing. But when opposing players throw elbows, shove her to the floor, or take cheap shots, it gets labeled as incidental contact. Everyone can see it. Fans, broadcasters, former players, everyone except the referees on the court. What we're watching isn't just inconsistent officiating, it's the use of financial punishment to discourage criticism. And it's happening during what should be the WNBA's biggest growth period.
Yeah, you said on Wednesday that there were some things you liked, some things you didn't like about the Aerie, Caitlin, double point starting lineup. Just with working with that the past couple days, is that something you're planning to continue today?
No, we're going to go back to our original starting lineup today. That was also something specific to Golden State. We're going to go back to our original starting lineup today with Lexi back in there.
Here's where this story gets really frustrating and why what happened after that Sparks game matters more than just one controversial finish. We're watching the WNBA work against its own success story, and the timing couldn't be worse. Think about what Caitlin Clark has done for women's basketball in just one season. She's filling arenas that used to be half empty. She's getting the WNBA on highlight shows every night. She's made women's basketball must-watch TV for millions of fans who never followed the league before. She is quite literally the biggest thing to happen to the WNBA since its founding. And what's the league's response? They're allowing her to get beaten up while punishing anyone who objects to the treatment. It's like winning the lottery and spending the money on things you don't need, wasteful and short-sighted. When Sydney Colson fired back at Clark with, "I can't get no more fined," she wasn't just being funny. She was exposing a system where players are being financially pressured into silence about real concerns. When athletes start joking about being fined into poverty just for asking for fairness, it's not amusing anymore. It shows leadership that's lost its way. The most frustrating part is how easily this could be fixed. The WNBA could implement better referee training tomorrow. They could bring in independent evaluators to grade officiating consistency. They could adopt the simple principle that if something is a foul on one end of the court, it should be a foul on the other end too. Instead, Commissioner Engelbert and her team have chosen the easiest path: financial intimidation. Keep the refs protected, keep the players worried about their paychecks, and pretend nothing is wrong while the integrity of games gets questioned in real time.
There wasn't an explanation for the tech that she got. I think it was pretty obvious that stuff was brewing, right? When the officials don't get control of the ball game, when they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game, it's been happening all season long.
But they didn't count on the internet age, where every controversial call gets analyzed on social media. Every missed foul gets replayed and shared until millions of people can see exactly what's happening. That viral exchange between Colson and Clark wasn't just entertaining Twitter content, it was a moment that revealed the WNBA's officiating problem to the world. Everyone can now see what Fever fans have been pointing out all season. Certain teams and players are being treated differently, and anyone who mentions it gets punished. The league's response has been predictably defensive. More fines, more threats, more tactics designed to protect referee feelings rather than competitive integrity. They're more worried about controlling the narrative than fixing actual problems, and that should concern anyone who cares about the sport. The bigger issue here goes beyond basketball. We're watching a league prioritize the comfort of officials over the fair treatment of its biggest stars during the most important growth period in its history. Every game now carries questions because fans tune in wondering if they're watching legitimate competition or predetermined outcomes. So here we are, at a crossroads that will determine whether the WNBA capitalizes on this golden opportunity or wastes the moment that Caitlin Clark and this generation of stars have created. The facts are clear, the pattern is obvious, the statistical evidence speaks for itself. One rookie receiving 17% of all flagrant fouls isn't a coincidence, it's a problem. Star players getting different whistles isn't an accident. It's systematic. And punishing athletes for pointing out clear issues isn't justice, it's poor leadership disguised as authority. What Sydney Colson and Caitlin Clark did with that viral exchange was more than social media entertainment. They held up a mirror to a league that's been ignoring these problems, and they forced everyone to face an uncomfortable truth. The WNBA's officiating has become so questionable that even respected diplomatic players like Colson can't stay quiet anymore. The choice now is straightforward. Will Commissioner Engelbert and the league office finally listen to their players, coaches, fans, and implement real changes? Will they stop punishing truth tellers and start holding referees accountable? Will they protect their biggest stars instead of allowing them to be targeted? Or will they continue down this path, finding anyone who speaks up while the credibility of the entire sport gets questioned before our eyes? Based on their track record, I wouldn't expect quick change. But that's exactly why conversations like this matter. Every time we document these problems, every time we share these stories, every time we refuse to let poor officiating hide behind fines and intimidation, we create pressure for the accountability that should already exist. What do you think? Is the WNBA's officiating problem as serious as players like Colson and Clark are suggesting? Or are these just competitive emotions getting the better of everyone? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this conversation is far from over. If this video showed you something you hadn't seen before about what's happening behind the scenes in women's basketball, Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. Stories like this, where athletes risk their own money just to expose what they believe are systematic problems, these are the conversations that define sports integrity. And if you want to see more content that looks deeper into the controversies mainstream media won't touch, click that video on your screen. We're just getting started and there's a lot more to uncover. The WNBA is at a turning point. The question isn't whether change needs to happen. The question is whether leadership will make it happen before they waste this incredible opportunity. The clock is ticking, and just like in that controversial finish against the Sparks, everyone is watching to see what happens next.